The breaking point, the summit of music, last chances, the zenith. Coalition chamber floated in the void. Between star systems, neutral territory, where no single species held advantage. Ambassador Marcus Chen stood before the gathering of 43 alien civilizations, each represented by their finest diplomats and military leaders. The circular chamber stretched 300 m across, with each delegation positioned behind energy barriers that maintained their specific atmospheric requirements. Marcus adjusted his simple gray suit and cleared his throat. He had been speaking for 2 hours, carefully explaining humanity's proposal for mutual defense and open trade corridors. His voice remained steady, patient despite the growing hostility from certain sectors of the room. The Vreen delegation occupied the eastern quadrant, their towering forms covered in thick exoskeleton plates made them look like walking fortresses. War Marshal Kravik stood at the center of his group, his forearms crossed in a gesture that every species recognized as contempt. His species had ruled 12 systems through military might for 3 centuries. The human continues to speak of cooperation. Kravik and LT Unc and GT's voice boomed through the translators, yet his species controls only one star system, one planet. They arrived in our galaxy merely 15 years ago with their slow ships and weaker bodies. Why should we grant them equal voice in coalition matters? Marcus had expected this. The Awaken Empire had opposed human membership since first contact. He kept his expression neutral, showing no anger, no frustration. His training as a diplomat had prepared him for worse than insults. The patient response. War Marshal Kravik. Marcus began, his tone respectful. Humanity does not seek to dominate, we seek to contribute. Our medical technology has already helped the Selkari overcome the Red Plague. Our agricultural methods have increased food production on 7 colony worlds. We offer value through innovation, not conquest. A new voice entered the discussion. Ambassador THRL of the Mindari Collective, being of pure energy contained within a crystalline matrix, pulsed with soft blue light. The human speaks truth. Their contributions have been measurable and beneficial. I support their petition for full membership. Kravik slammed one of his massive fists against his podium. The sound echoed through the chamber like thunder. Beneficial. They are weak. Look at them, soft skin, fragile bones. No natural defenses. On my home world, such creatures exist only as prey. Animals, they smile and bow and speak gentle words because they lack the strength to do otherwise. Marcus felt his assistant, Lieutenant Sarah Park, tense behind him. She was part of his security detail, trained for exactly this kind of situation. He raised his hand slightly, signaling her to remain calm. Reacting to provocation would only prove Kravik and LT Unc and GT's point. War Marshal strength takes many forms. Marcus said, we have found that diplomacy often achieves better results than warfare. Surely your own history has shown you the cost of endless conflict. Kravik and LT Unc and GT's eyes narrowed. In Vreen culture, that was a sign of rage. You dare lecture me about conflict? My species has won 1,000 battles while yours was still learning to build fire. We are apex predators. You are nothing. The conspiracy unfolds. The session continued for another hour. But Marcus noticed something troubling. Several delegations that normally remain neutral were now watching him with calculating expressions, the Zenari, the Coral, even the usually peaceful Lumini. All seemed to be waiting for something. When the session finally ended, Marcus walked back to the human delegation's quarters with Sarah and two other security officers. The corridors of Zenith Station were empty at this hour, maintained by automated systems. Their footsteps echoed off the metallic walls. "Sir, I don't like this," Sarah whispered. Kravik was more aggressive than usual. "And did you notice the others? Something's wrong." Marcus nodded. "I noticed. Stay alert, but don't." The corridor exploded, not with fire but with a burst of electromagnetic energy that shut down every system within 50 m. The lights died, the gravity stabilizers failed. In the sudden darkness and weightlessness, Marcus heard the distinctive hiss of Awaken combat armor. They had been waiting, the impossible survival. Sarah's voice cut through the chaos. "Ambush, protect the ambassador." Marcus felt hands grabbing him, pulling him backward. His security team was well trained, but they were outnumbered. He heard the distinctive crack of energy weapons, saw brief flashes of light, illuminating armored figures. The Vraken had brought at least a dozen warriors. A massive form loomed in front of Marcus. Even in the darkness, he recognized Kravik's distinctive armor markings. The war marshal had personally come to eliminate him. The coalition will blame technical failure, Kravik growled. "A tragic accident. The weak human diplomat died when the station systems failed. No one will question it. No one will mourn." Kravik's arm rose, an energy blade extending from his gauntlet. The weapon was designed to cut through Starship Hall plating. It would slice through human flesh and bone like they didn't exist. Marcus had 1 second to react. His training, his years of careful diplomacy, his entire mission to prove humanity could integrate peacefully into galactic society, all of it came down to this moment. The blade came down and Marcus caught it, his hand wrapped around the energy blade, and it stopped, just stopped. The weapon that could cut through steel halted, centimeters from his face, held by nothing but his grip. Kravik stared in the dim emergency lighting that flickered on. His expression showed something the Vreen rarely displayed. Confusion. "Impossible," Kravik whispered. "No being can hold an energy blade with bare flesh." Marcus stood slowly. He was still weightless, still surrounded by attackers, but something had changed. The diplomatic mask he had worn for 3 years was cracking. The revelation begins. Sarah and the security team had disabled 3 of the Vraken soldiers, but more were closing in. They wouldn't survive the next 30 seconds. Marcus knew this with absolute certainty. He also knew that the time for pretending was over. "Stand down," Marcus said quietly. His voice had changed, dropped lower, harder. Sarah recognized the tone immediately and pulled back, taking the security team with her. Marcus released the energy blade and let himself drift backward in the zero gravity. Kravik moved to attack again, and this time Marcus didn't try to seem weak or diplomatic. He moved. In zero gravity, combat became three-dimensional. Most species struggled with it. Humans who had evolved as persistent hunters and tool users adapted to it naturally. Marcus pushed off the wall with force that sent him spinning toward Kravik at speed that should have been impossible for someone of his size. He struck the war marshal in the center of his chest plate. The impact sounded like a bell being rung. Kravik, who weighed 3 times what Marcus did and wore armor that added another 100 kg, flew backward. He crashed into 2 of his own soldiers, and all 3 of them slammed into the far wall hard enough to dent the metal. The corridor went silent except for emergency alarms. Every being present stared at Marcus Chin, the quiet diplomat who had just hit a Awaken war marshal hard enough to send him flying through 20 m of zero gravity. Marcus floated in the center of the corridor, breathing steadily, and looked at each of the remaining Awaken soldiers. I am giving you one chance to withdraw. Take your war marshal and leave. This ends now, or I will show you what else humanity has been hiding. One of the Awaken soldiers raised his weapon. Marcus moved again, too fast to track properly. He disarmed the soldier using the being's own weight and momentum. Against him, the weapon spun away. Soldier followed unconscious. Kravik struggled to his feet, his armor system sparking from the impact. He looked at Marcus with new eyes, not contempt anymore, but recognition. The recognition a predator gives to another predator. What are you? Kravik demanded. Marcus straightened his suit jacket, the diplomatic gesture somehow more threatening now than comforting. I am what I have always been, war marshal, a human. Perhaps it's time the coalition learned what that really means. The awakening, the truth revealed. Emergency crews arrived within minutes, flooding the corridor with light and restoring gravity. Marcus stood calmly as security forces from a dozen species surrounded the scene. Kravik remained on the ground, his armor damaged, his pride shattered. The other Awaken soldiers had retreated, carrying their wounded. Sarah stood beside Marcus, her weapon still drawn but pointed safely downward. She had served with him for 2 years and never seen him move like that. None of them had. Commander Zephyx of the Coalition Security Force arrived, his insectoid form clicking with agitation. His compound eyes took in the scene, the damaged walls, the unconscious Awaken soldiers, and Marcus Chin standing untouched in the center of it all. Ambassador Chin, Zephyx's mandibles clicked. You will need to explain what happened here, War Marshal. Kravik has accused you of using illegal enhancement technology. Marcus nodded. Slowly, I will explain everything, Commander, but not here. This conversation needs to happen before the full Coalition Council. Every species representative should hear what I have to say. Kravik pushed himself up, his exoskeleton cracked in 3 places. You attack me and then demand an audience. Your arrogance matches your deception. Human, I didn't attack you, War Marshal. Marcus replied calmly. I defended myself from your assassination attempt. There's a significant difference, and yes, I have been economical with certain truths about my species. That ends today. The emergency council. 6 hours later, the Coalition Council reconvened. This time the atmosphere was completely different. Security forces lined the walls. Every delegation had activated their defensive shields to maximum strength, and Marcus Chin stood alone at the center of the chamber with no podium, no notes, just himself. High Chancellor Morx, whose species had founded the Coalition 3,000 years ago, spoke first. His ancient voice carried the weight of centuries. Ambassador Chin, you stand accused of deception and assault. The evidence suggests you possess physical capabilities far beyond what humanity has reported. Explain yourself. Marcus took a deep breath. This was the moment. 3 years of careful diplomacy of building trust slowly and patiently was about to either pay off or destroy everything humanity had worked for. High Chancellor honored delegates Marcus began. My species has indeed withheld certain information about our nature. We did this not out of malice but out of fear of rejection, fear of being treated as a threat rather than as potential allies. Ambassador thrills. Crystalline form pulsed. What have you hidden from us? The truth about Earth. Marcus said simply, our home world is classified in your databases as a standard class and planet suitable for most carbon-based life. That classification is incomplete. He activated a holographic display showing Earth rotating slowly. This is our world. Gravity 1.2 standard units, what most species would classify as high gravity. Atmospheric pressure 1.3 standard units. Oxygen content 21% high enough to support rapid combustion. Solar radiation 15% above what most species consider safe levels. Murmur spread through the chamber. Several delegates were accessing their databases, confirming his claims. The death world. Truth. Marcus continued, his voice steady, but those are just numbers. Let me tell you what they mean in practice. Earth has weather systems that generate winds exceeding 300 km/h. We have electrical storms that release more energy than most species' weapons. We have ocean currents strong enough to move continental ice sheets. We have tectonic activity that reshapes our surface every few million years. Impossible, someone whispered. No complex life could evolve in such conditions, yet it did. Marcus said, not just humans, but millions of species. Creatures adapted to survive extremes that would kill most galactic citizens within hours. And humans, we are persistence hunters. We evolved by chasing prey across vast distances and heat that would cause most species to collapse. Our bodies can regulate temperature through liquid cooling systems you call sweat. We can maintain physical activity for hours without rest. He gestured to his own body. This frame you see is weak and vulnerable. It contains bones denser than most species, armor plating muscles that can exert force for sustained periods, a skeletal structure designed for throwing projectiles with lethal accuracy, and a healing capacity that allows us to recover from injuries that would permanently disable most beings. Kravik stood slowly, his damaged armor creaking. You are saying humans are apex predators disguised as diplomats? No. Marcus shook his head. I'm saying we are survivors. There's a difference. Apex predators dominate their environment through strength. Humans survived by adapting, by cooperating, by using our intelligence to overcome challenges that should have killed us. We didn't evolve claws, so we made tools. We didn't evolve armor, so we made shelters. We didn't evolve venom, so we made medicine. The demonstration words are easy. Kravik challenged. Prove your claims. Show us this supposed strength. Marcus looked at the war marshal for a long moment. If I do this, war marshal, you need to understand something. What you saw in that corridor was me holding back significantly. I was trying not to seriously harm you. If I demonstrate our full capabilities, someone might get hurt. I volunteer, Kravik said. Let the council see what humans truly are. High Chancellor Morphs hesitated, then nodded. Very well. A controlled demonstration. Medical team stand ready. The center of the chamber cleared. Kravik, despite his damaged armor, moved. To face Marcus, the war marshal was 2.5 meters tall, massed over 300 kg, and had trained in combat since childhood. He represented the pinnacle of Awaken military prowess. Marcus removed his jacket and rolled up his sleeves. His arms looked thin compared to Kravik's massive limbs, but those who looked closely could see the density of muscle, the way his forearms flexed with controlled strength. "Come at me with everything you have," Marcus said quietly. "Don't hold back. Show me the strength of the Awaken Empire." Kravik roared and charged. His speed was impressive for someone his size, his technique honed by decades of warfare. His fist came forward with enough force to shatter stone. Marcus stepped inside the punch, redirecting it past his shoulder. His hand shot out, gripping Kravik's wrist. Then he pulled, using the war marshal's own momentum against him. Kravik stumbled forward, off balance. Marcus' other hand struck Kravik's elbow joint, not hard enough to break it, but precisely placed to disable the limb temporarily. The war marshal's arm went limp. Before he could recover, Marcus had shifted position, sweeping Kravik's leg and guiding his massive body to the ground with controlled force. The entire sequence took less than 3 seconds. Understanding dawns. Kravik lay on the floor, breathing heavily, his pride wounded more than his body. Marcus released him and stepped back, offering a hand to help him up. After a moment's hesitation, Kravik took it. "You could have killed me," the war marshal said quietly. "In that corridor just now, you had the capability and the justification. Why didn't you?" "Because killing should always be the last option, not the first," Marcus replied. "Humanity learned that lesson through painful experience. We spent thousands of years fighting each other before we finally understood that cooperation achieves more than conquest. We want to bring that wisdom to the galaxy, not our capacity for violence." High Chancellor Morks leaned forward. "Why hide this? If humanity possesses such capabilities, why present yourselves as weak?" Marcus turned to address the full council. "Because we've seen how this galaxy treats predator species. The Kryn are quarantined to their home world because others fear their hunting instincts. Veshkari faced constant military monitoring because of their aggressive history. We didn't want that fate. We wanted to be judged by our choices, not our biology. So you lied." Someone called out. "We omitted." Marcus corrected. "We never claimed to be weak. We simply chose to emphasize our diplomatic skills over our physical ones. We wanted to prove that a species can be strong and still choose peace. That having the capacity for violence doesn't mean defaulting to it." Ambassador THRL pulsed brightly. "You have certainly proven your point." Ambassador Chin, "The question now is, what happens next?" A new understanding. Marcus looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of delegates from dozens of species. Some looked frightened, some looked impressed, some looked thoughtful. "What happens next is up to this council," Marcus said. "You can reject humanity's petition for membership based on fear of what we might do, or you can accept us based on what we have actually done. 3 years of honest cooperation, shared technology, peaceful trade, and a consistent choice of diplomacy over force." Kravik stepped forward, his armor still sparking from damage. "I opposed human membership because I thought them Weak, I was wrong, they are not weak. They are controlled, that is far more dangerous but also far more valuable. Warrior who knows when not to fight is worth 10 who only know violence. He turned to Marcus. You could have humiliated me before the council. You could have killed me in that corridor. You didn't either. You showed restraint and mercy. These are not weaknesses, Ambassador Chin. They are the qualities of true strength. The Vreen Empire withdraws its opposition to human membership. Furthermore, we would welcome a military cooperation agreement. I would like to learn more about human combat philosophy. Other voices rose, some in agreement, others in concern. The debate would continue for days, Marcus knew, but something fundamental had shifted. Humanity was no longer seen as weak prey animals begging for acceptance. They were recognized as what they truly were, survivors from a harsh world who had chosen to use their strength to build rather than destroy. High Chancellor Morphs raised his hand for silence. This council will deliberate on humanity's petition with this new information in mind. Ambassador Chen, you and your delegation will be informed of our decision within one standard cycle. The aftermath later in the human delegation's quarters. Sarah finally asked the question that had been bothering her since the attack. Sir, were we ever really in danger in that corridor? Marcus sat heavily in his chair, suddenly looking tired. The diplomatic mask was back, but now everyone knew what lay beneath it. Yes, he said honestly, Kravik could have killed me if his first strike had landed. Humans are tough, but we're not invincible. I gambled that I could react fast enough, and I was lucky. That wasn't luck, sir. That was skill. Skill built on 10,000 years of human warfare. Marcus replied. Every martial art, every combat technique, every lesson learned from fighting each other and our own planet's dangers. We didn't hide that we were strong, Sarah. We hid that we knew exactly how to apply that strength most effectively. His communicator chimed. Message from High Chancellor Morgs. Preliminary vote results are promising. The truth about humanity may have been exactly what the coalition needed to see. Marcus smiled slightly. Sometimes the best way to prove you're peaceful is to demonstrate that you could be dangerous but choose not to be. The galaxy respects strength, but it values wisdom more. Today we showed them we have both. Through the viewport, Earth hung in the distance, a blue marble that had forged its children in fire and pressure and storms. Those children had spread to the stars, not as conquerors, but as partners, and now finally the galaxy understood what that partnership truly meant. Humanity had awakened before the coalition's eyes, and the galaxy would never see them the same way.